Hello. I'd like to introduce you to the crew, the Highfill Crew. My tweeting, flipping, bring your own device full room full of 32 creators and makers. My day family. Yes, I am the day mom, and these are the day brothers and sisters. You see, I learned early on that we spend more waking hours during the week with each other than we do with our own families. And so it became my mission. I wanted them to want to come to this family. I wanted them to wake up in the morning and think, what are we going to do today? And at the end of the day, look up in shock at how fast the time flew. In order to get you to come into the classroom with me, I'd like to bring you along through my Twitter feed, where we share with classrooms all over the country my laboratory full of scientists who love to learn through discovery and play. I mean, who says you have to read silently at a desk when it's so much more engaging when you could build a fort first? One of our keys to success, though, we start with every September. We must build community. My classroom must be a place where you feel wanted, where you feel accepted, and you build trust with each other, with your day brothers and sisters, so that you can enjoy and learn together through your failures and your successes. How many of you remember sitting in classrooms like this? The goal was you sit, you listen, you learn. I remember that. I would sit in the back and hope that no one would notice me and I could kind of sneak by without doing too much thinking. Not in the Highfill Crew. That became a big goal of mine. Everyone must be engaged. And so when it was time to learn quadratic equations, I gave them a map of the school with the grid right over it. And thank goodness for Shreyas and his love of equations. He made equations for us and made QR codes to go with them. The class got up, bring your own device, scan the code, solve the equation, gives you the coordinate pair for the next location. Everyone's up, everyone's active, everyone's engaged. Who thought quadratic equations could be so exciting at 10 years old? You see, in the crew, we believe in learning by being active learners, being engaged learners. It is so much more effective if I don't tell them how to get on the bike, if I just let them go do it themselves. Now, I could give them a worksheet and say, here you go, this is how you do it, but it's so much more effective, and they get so much more out of it if I trust the process. Now, with anything that you try for the first time, it's very frightening. It's really frightening to be the person on the side also watching the bike take off. And so this happened in the crew. When they decided that they wanted to do claymation narrative storytelling instead of the plain old, let's do narrative stories. See, I had no idea how to do claymations, but I didn't tell them that. Okay, crew, you're on your way. Well, we had a new nickname after this, and that was the workaround crew, because anytime they hit a wall, these kids were amazing. I would say, well, what are you going to do about it? And they figured it out. It was unbelievable. And the whole time I'm like, I could take notes because I didn't even know that. So in the end, it was unbelievable what they came up with. I couldn't even have set the syllabus or expectations for this. They far exceeded anything I would have dreamed of. 2 of the videos went on to be award-winning videos at the California Student Media Festival. This kind of learning is so much more than narrative storytelling. This kind of learning built communication. It built critical thinking. It built collaboration with each other and problem solving like you couldn't imagine. But there's a catch. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. And it's really frightening to take up all of that time because I have a lot to cover during the school year. And it was a quandary that I had to solve. And then I was introduced to a new way to deliver my content. And that was flipped teaching. You see, this is what my life is like when I'm trying to think of what to do in the classroom. I've got my content to consider. That's my curriculum, and that's the standards that I teach. And then I have my pedagogy. That's what I do with students and what I ask them to do and how I deliver that content. And then, of course, my love of the digital tools, the shiny toys. Now, if I do each of these separately, it's not effective. If I hand you an iPad and say, play on this app, there's nothing innovative about that. It's when I can get all 3 to meet in the center That's what I strive for. That's the innovation I'm looking for. You see, I worry a lot about blackboard to whiteboard innovation, where you're really not doing anything different. It may be faster and it may be more exciting because it's a great shiny toy, but it's really the same thing that I could have done on paper before. So every day I come into the classroom, I ask myself, what is it that I can do now that I couldn't do before? This is my challenge, and I work very hard at this challenge. Now, I've had some great training, great opportunities with amazing programs around the Bay Area. But within these programs, it was the amazing people that I made contact with, my mentors. One of my greatest mentors, Dr. Ramsey Musalam, introduced me to the concept of flipped teaching. He hooked me when he said this. His goal was to make the homework experience more meaningful and the classroom experience more meaningful at the same time. That's me. That's what I want to do. So teach me how, Dr. Musalam. He went on to explain the cycles of learning. And this is what I was doing before I started flipping. Step 1, I'd be in class and I would explain in the form of a lecture. Step 2, apply the concept, send the kids home for homework. Step 3, they come back to class, we assess what you know, either through a project or a test. Now, I have to bring up Bloom's taxonomy at this point, of course. Because if I want students to move to higher levels of critical thinking and creating and making, I had to rethink my use of time in the classroom. Because I all of a sudden realized that I was spending all my time in the classroom with the lowest levels of Bloom's taxonomy, with the understanding and the remembering. And repeating myself over and over again because they weren't getting it. And I was sending home that create, that evaluate, that analyze piece. Oh, the poor parents and the homework nights. How many of you did the mission project? Dr. Musalam encouraged me to embrace the mess of discovery. And so I used my classroom as a laboratory, and these are my scientists. And I said, instead of just handing out the vocabulary for geometry unit, I'm going to let you explore it first. And I gave them toothpicks and chickpeas. Oh my goodness, what they came up with. All of a sudden, we had icosahedrons and dodecahedrons. And I didn't tell them to make those. And then this happened.
I was going to say that.
What is it?
Amazing. Oh my God.
What is it? Did you hear it? Did you feel it? It was the aha moment. The moment I live for every day. The moment when learning occurs. And I didn't tell it to them. I just witnessed it. I actually was capturing it on film. This is what my cycles of learning look like now as my classroom. Step 1, we explore. And on Bloom's taxonomy, that's evaluating and analyzing. Step 2, we explain. This is the flip. This is where I create a video of the content, and they watch it at home that night. The next day, they come to class for step 3, apply. Apply the knowledge of that content. This is where the magic happens. This is where I get to spin my craft that I've worked so hard to develop, and I get to be there to witness it. Not only that, I'm there to push those that would rather sit in the back and do nothing. Everyone is participating. So here's what it looks like in the classroom. We had to learn how to add decimals. So I pull out all the money and the coins and the dollars, and I say, all right, everyone, get together, and I want you to figure out how much money you have all together. And let me know what you've discovered. Well, I was amazed when they stood up and they said, you know, Mrs. Highfill, I noticed that when we combined our money and we were adding it up, and we started with the largest bills and we went all the way to the coins. We were going left to right. But when we're adding, we always go from the coins and go to the largest. We go from right to left. Amazing. That's what number sense development looks like at age 10. That's not something that happens when they're doing the 10 problems out of the math book. Oh, but that night they had to go home and learn how to line up those decimals and bring it down and add decimals properly because, you know, we have to have people be able to balance their checkbooks. The next day in class, they came back. I handed them takeout menus. I said, order anything you want on the menu, but you better add up your bill correctly. So what does it look like now in my classroom? Students go home and they watch a short 5-minute video that I've created, the explain portion. And then they fill out a Google form. I love Google Forms. They submit, and it comes straight to my laptop. So at home that night, I can look at how well they did. It's very simple to see. They encouraged me to put the comment section because they wanted to let me know how good my videos were, or if they already understood it, could they move on? And it's really powerful when they say, I'm really struggling with this. The next day, I'm prepared ahead of time. I know who's getting it and who's not getting it. Who needs to be pulled into a special group with that support for that apply portion of the day. This also tells me something very important. It tells me who didn't fill out the Google form, who doesn't have access at home, and who am I going to reach first that very next morning with a device and say, watch it now. Because who says it has to happen at home? It can happen any time of the day. It can happen at any portion of their learning. See, I've cloned myself. It's great. I don't have to repeat myself ever. I said, did you watch the video? I had a student write a comment to me and they're saying, watching your videos is like having you right next to me as I'm learning. It's an amazing, powerful thing. You see, my day family has become a place to wonder and the time to do it with. I've had people ask me, why do you teach? I think I've had a big aha moment about that. Because I get to explore, and I get to discover, and that is a powerful feeling. And I get to witness this. The face of accomplishment as Shreyas completed that QR code scavenger hunt. The face of Isabella, that joy as she completed her kindness project. And the face of Anthony, the pride and the confidence that he gained because he discovered from his explorations instead of being told. You see, my classroom has been given the gift of time, and it's amazing what they've done with it. We have a saying in the Highfill Crew. Once a Highfill Crew member, always a Highfill Crew member. That's powerful. It means a lot to them, not just to this year's crew, but to all 19 of them. And I ask you, where in the world do you belong? Where in the world do you take the time to explore first and then explain and apply? That's the world we are creating. Thank you.